Ladies and gents, gather round. Prepare your hearts for this tale of epic proportions that mocks the annals of history and literature. The belly laugh-inducing anniversary of Paul Phillips and Mimi Hennedy, etched in time on January 28, 2024. Their love story is a veritable library of peculiar chronicles that make Romeo and Juliet look like a trite high drama. Mimi, our pyrotechnics connoisseur and fire whisperer, her life once an amalgamation of Dickens's street urchin and a Denny's waitress. In comparison, Oliver Twist would have begged for more of her dazzling tale. Her universe took an M. Night Shyamalan-level twist when she crossed paths with Paul. Our hero was valiantly fending off hordes of rum-infused zombies on an isolated isle in Puerto Rico, making Robinson Crusoe's island escapades seem like a tepid vacation. Then enter centre stage Zyla Phillips, their prodigious offspring. Her birthright, nothing less than the presidency of the United States, the empressship of the world, and a legacy enduring as St. Zyla. Far surpassing the ambitions of Macbeth, Zyla is predestined to rule the cosmos. With a mind-reading prowess that would throw Sherlock Holmes into an existential crisis, she's foretold as the universal sovereign. As we commemorate their first anniversary, we plunge headfirst into uproariously inflated and side-splitting tales of yore and their daughter Zyla's predestined future. This narrative is not just another mundane marriage journal, but a fantastical odyssey dissecting their extraordinary existence. It makes War and Peace read like a manual for assembling IKEA furniture. Brace yourselves, esteemed listeners, as we embark on a journey that puts most literary masterpieces to shame. The kind of story that makes Hemingway, Tolstoy and Shakespeare collectively roll in their graves and rethink their legacies. Here we are, taking a detour to the past that not even Dickens could have dreamt up. We find Mimi, our leading lady, in the midst of a slapstick juggle. Bread rolls, dirty dishes, you name it, she's got it. We're in a hovel they call the Rat Hole. It's about as grim as Hemingway's worlds clinging to the edge of the city. But there's Mimi, bold as a Bronte heroine, a fiery beacon in this sepia-toned wasteland, and boy did she yearn for more than what Fitzgerald's Gatsby could ever imagine. One not-so-average day, Mimi stumbled upon a cryptic book straight out of a Lovecraft tale while on a scavenger hunt in a junkyard. The tome, Pyro 101, made Tolkien's Elvish look like preschool scribbles. With a spark in her eyes that would have sent Shakespeare scrambling for his quill, she decided to embark on a journey that would make Homer's Odyssey look like a weekend getaway. Get ready for a montage that would make Mark Twain himself chortle. Our Mimi, the budding pyromancer, made her mark on the city, literally. A singed boss, a bakery explosion, a hot dog stand, all this makes Orwell's dystopia seem like a walk in the park. Amidst her fiery exploits, Mimi uncovered an innate talent for conjuring fire. Each day her power grew, until she was practically a walking flamethrower. From a Dickensian street urchin and waitress, Mimi morphed into the ultimate pyromancer. She gave the city its first true spectacle, and its biggest fire insurance headache. This, my friends, is the tale of Mimi's fiery ascent, filled with humour absurdity that makes Roth's Portnoy's complaint seem like a dull complaint indeed. Stay tuned as we delve further into this fantastic journey of Mimi and Paul that makes J.K. Rowling's wizarding world seem like a children's playpen. Let's redirect our course and barrel towards the sun-drenched shores of Puerto Rico. In this cyclorama, our protagonist Paul, marooned and apparently bound for boredom on a deserted island, manages to upend even Robinson Crusoe's most thrilling exploits. But this is no ordinary humdrum island. It's a tropical paradise, rivaling the Garden of Eden itself, overflowing with palm trees and bathed in crystal-clear waters. And would you believe it? Rum-soaked zombies. Forget Dante's Inferno, folks. This is the real deal. Paul's tropical retreat morphs into a battle royale more gripping than the Trojan War for survival. The island, it appears, was the final resting place of Captain Rumbeard, a pirate so infamous Blackbeard himself would have been green with envy. Our dear Captain Rumbeard, in a plot twist that makes Jekyll and Hyde seem like a child's bedtime story, had cursed his crew to wander the island as rum-soaked zombies for all eternity, and who better to face this challenge than our hero Paul? Not Achilles, not Odysseus, not even Hercules himself. Watch as our audacious hero, armed with nothing more than a coconut shell mug, outdrinks the zombie hordes one by one. Each scene is more suspenseful than the entire Sherlock Holmes series combined. There are narrow escapes that make the Great Expectations cliffhangers look like amateur hour, laugh-out-loud mishaps that make Twain's humour seem dry, and even a scene where Paul uses a flamingo as a makeshift sword. Who needs Excalibur? Stay poised, though. Our hero conducts himself with the calm Jay Gatsby, the wit of Oscar Wilde's Dorian Gray, and, most importantly, an unrivalled sobriety. As the last zombie teeters and collapses, Paul stands victorious. He's not just a survivor, he's a champion, a hero, a legend that makes Beowulf seem like a schoolyard bully. So, let's raise our glasses, folks, to Paul, the man who outdrank a horde of rum-soaked zombies and lived spin the yarn. And do stay tuned as we continue to weave the surreal love story of Paul and Mimi, a tale that makes Romeo and Juliet look like a high school fling. Buckle up and clutch your coconut shell mugs tightly, dear listeners, because the plot is about to thicken, and even Dickens himself would shiver in his boots. We're about to add a new puppet to this grand theatre of the absurd, presenting Zyla Phillips, the delightful progeny of our much-loved Paul and Mimi, born under a double rainbow, because obviously a single rainbow is far too pedestrian for our tale. This is no ordinary toddler, folks. This is the stuff of legends that make Homer's Odyssey look like a child's bedtime story. She's inherited her father's razor-sharp wit, her mother's fierce tenacity, a cocktail that Shakespeare's characters could only dream of. Her destiny is as extraordinary as a unicorn riding a unicycle. Yes, you heard right, a unicorn riding a unicycle, and you thought Moby Dick was surreal. Our tale is a spectacle that outshines even the most dramatic of Dickens's plot twists. Picture this: a stormy night, a deserted island, Mimi stranded alone in a makeshift hut, going into labour. Paul, meanwhile, is wrestling with a giant squid in a turbulent ocean, trying to fetch the magical seaweed that will ease Mimi's pain. Makes Captain Ahab's infamous white whale seem like a friendly goldfish, doesn't it? Back on the island, Mimi is as resolute as ever, using a conch shell as a breathing apparatus and a starfish as a stress ball. Even Hemingway's characters would crumble under the pressure. But just as Paul returns, victorious and drenched, Zyla decides to steal the show. And what an entrance it is! As Zyla is born, the storm subsides. A double rainbow paints the sky, and a choir of parrots, seemingly out of nowhere, burst into harmonious lullaby. It's so grand that even Tolstoy's War and Peace seem like a comic strip. But the climax? Zyla can talk. Yes, you heard right. The little darling speaks her first words mere moments after being born. "More rum, Dad," she quips, her eyes sparkling with mischief, leaving Paul and Mimi in stunned silence. Even Austen's Mr. Darcy couldn't deliver such a witty line. So, the curtain rises on Zyla's extraordinary destiny. A destiny that includes talking dolphins, time-travelling pirates, and an ocean of rum. It's a tale that would make J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series seem like a pamphlet. But dear listeners, the rest of this exciting story will have to wait. So keep your eyes peeled and your coconut shell mugs refilled as we continue this ludicrous journey of love, legends, and ludicrous adventures. Let's turn back the hands of the clock. Before the tempestuous twilights, before the gabby toddler's first steps, before the wild tussles in the tropics, there existed an era where our protagonists, Paul and Mimi, were simply nondescript strangers in a crowd. Akin to a prequel more exciting than any Tolkien epic, their meeting was an affair more extraordinary than the adventures of a certain Mr. Gatsby in the Roaring Twenties. Imagine, if you will, a beach bar alive with the energy of 1,000 suns, the sky painted in hues of a setting sun, and our self-styled pyro prodigy, hell-bent on wowing the crowd with his fire-breathing theatrics. In the midst of this spectacle, Mimi, the alley cat turned belle of the ball, is behind the bar, concocting libations with the precision of a maestro and the panache of a seasoned Broadway star, making the likes of Hemingway's bartenders look like bumbling novices. Driven by a desire to impress Mimi, Paul decides to go all out. Dickens be damned. He gulps down a mouthful of rum, strikes a match, and breathes fire into the air. But instead of awe, his act is met with a collective gasp as the flame unintentionally sets a palm tree alight. Mimi, quick as a cat in a Dr. Seuss tale, grabs a pina colada, and with a motion smoother than any of Austen's plot progressions, snuffs out the flames. The crowd erupts into applause, and Paul, far from being red-faced, takes a bow, spinning his blunder into part of the show. Mimi, tickled by his brazenness, rewards his audacity with a hearty laugh. And it's in this mesmerising moment, amidst the laughter and applause, that their eyes lock. It's electrifying, it's passionate, it's interrupted by squawking parrot in a Shakespearean twist, crashing into Paul's head. The crowd roars with laughter, and Mimi, wiping tears of mirth from her eyes, offers Paul a refreshing pina colada, and with that squawk and a cocktail, a love story more riveting than Mr. Darcy and Miss Bennet's unfolds. What follows next, dear viewers, makes war and peace seem like children's bedtime stories. So don't go anywhere, because this rollercoaster ride is just getting warmed up. As the sun casually decides to take a plunge beyond the horizon, replacing its brilliant yellows with a riot of pink and orange that makes the starry night looks like a child's finger painting, we find our gallant gladiators, Paul and Mimi, poised to go on their first date. Picture this: a beach lustrously lit by the moon, a blanket cozier the scarves in a Dickensian novel, and a picnic basket teeming with fruits and delicacies that would have the Mad Hatter's tea party look like a drab gathering. Now, Paul, channeling his inner Gatsby, albeit a Gatsby that's got more flair, decides to make their date. He pulls out a small box from his pocket and lo and behold, out springs a tiny, fiery phoenix, casting a warm glow that puts the great fire of London to shame. Mimi's eyes widen in surprise and delight, her laughter echoing into the night, sounding sweeter than ballad penned by Shakespeare. But our phoenix, a creature more mischievous than a Cheshire cat, decides to play a prank, swooping towards Mimi and stealing a grape. Mimi, hotter on the chase than Ahab on the hunt for his whale, races across the beach, her laughter blending with Paul's in a symphony that would leave Beethoven green with envy. They finally collapse onto the sand, the phoenix casting shadows that would have Plato rethink his cave allegory. As the night deepens, our duo shares stories that make the Iliad seem like a bedtime story. Paul, more romantically innovative than Romeo, conjures a flame into a rose and hands it to Mimi. She takes it, her eyes reflecting the dancing flames, and with a soft thank you, leans in to kiss Paul. And so, their date concludes, not with a whimper, but with a blaze and a purloined grape, making T.S. Eliot's world end like a damp squib. But behold, dear viewers, their story is far from over. It makes War and Peace look like a comic strip. So stay tuned as we continue this odyssey that makes Homer's epic seem like a limerick. We're about to dive deeper into the extraordinary saga of Paul and Mimi. As the dawn breaks, we find ourselves in a quaint, seaside town that makes the Shire in Lord of the Rings seem as interesting as a pebble. The morning sun, more dazzling than any of Hemingway's descriptions of light, casts a golden glow over the charming houses. The air is thick with anticipation, far more riveting than anything out of a Dickens novel. Today is the day of Paul and Mimi's wedding, an event that makes Romeo and Juliet's nuptials look like a casual playdate. The whole town is abuzz with excitement, with the level rivaling the cacophony of Moby Dick's whale chase. This wedding, dwarfing even the spectacle of Gatsby's parties, is a spectacle of extraordinary proportions that would make the War of the Worlds appear like a minor disagreement. Picture this, a giant tent made of silk and starlight, where even the most grandiose of Tolkien's elven halls would pale in comparison, a cake so monstrous it makes the whale from Moby Dick look like a guppy. Guests range from mermaids and minstrels to wizards and werewolves, making the cast of Alice in Wonderland look like the attendees of a mundane tea party. Paul, more dashing than Mr. Darcy, appears on a dragon that would make Daenerys Targaryen green with envy. Its scales shimmer in the sunlight in a display more awe-inspiring than any of Fitzgerald's gilded descriptions. Mimi, not about to be upstaged, arrives on a chariot pulled by unicorns, putting Cinderella's pumpkin carriage to absolute shame. The ceremony is a mix of laughter and tears, ridiculous vows and heartfelt promises that might even move the stoic Atticus Finch. The ring-bearer? None other than their mischievous phoenix, making the antics in Harry Potter seem as exciting as watching grass grow. The reception is a wild dance of joy and celebration, filled with magical fireworks, floating lanterns, and a feast that would make the Great Hall in Hogwarts seem like a soup kitchen. And as the night deepens, in a scene more romantic than anything out of Pride and Prejudice, Paul and Mimi share their first dance under the starlit sky, their laughter echoing into the night, their love as bright and eternal as the stars above. The end of the wedding of Paul and Mimi arrives, a wedding filled with more wonders and whimsy than the entirety of Alice's adventures in Wonderland. But as our beloved couple embarks on their new journey, stay tuned, for their story makes War and Peace seem like a short story. As dawn splinters the sky on their inaugural day as a legally bound couple, Paul and Mimi find themselves in a tempest of escapades that makes Homer's Odyssey look like a dull vacation brochure. Imagine this, a year filled to the brim with grand gestures so grand they make Romeo's moonlit serenade appear as romantic as a damp napkin. Ludicrous predicaments that Alice's trip down the rabbit hole seem as exciting as a game of checkers, and magical blunders that render the happenings at Hogwarts seem as thrilling as a third-grade spelling bee. Their honeymoon, an expedition to the moon aboard a spaceship forged from dreams and stardust, outshining even Jules Verne's Nautilus in grandeur and whimsy. There they dance among the stars, making the best of Austen's ballroom scenes seem drab, and have picnics on moon cheese, rendering Remy the rat's cooking in Ratatouille a mere snack time in kindergarten. Their inaugural abode? A floating castle in the heavens with a garden of hovering blossoms and an ever-altering vista that makes Dorothy's Oz look like a pitiful suburb. Their quotidian life is as mundane as a unicorn doing your taxes. Paul, with more romance in his pinky toe than Mr. Darcy, surprises Mimi with breakfast in bed, the food cooked up by a squadron of twinkling fairy chefs and served on a tray of unadulterated gold. Mimi, refusing to be outdone, orchestrates a surprise symphony for Paul, with a choir of mermaids crooning him awake, making Orpheus's lyre strumming seem as melodious as a tone-deaf cat. Their first anniversary, a majestic ball attended by mythical beings from every corner of the globe. Their love festooned with a feast that outlasts the banquet halls of Gatsby's mansion by days. But it's not all tumult and spectacle. There are moments of tranquility too. Moments where they simply exist together, hands intertwined, watching the sunrise, or sharing a hushed meal that makes the Mad Hatter's tea party look like a squabble over the last biscuit. As the curtain falls on their first year of matrimonial bliss, a year crammed with miracles and mayhem, a year so extraordinary that it makes the love story of Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy seem as ordinary as the phone book. They're just getting started. So brace yourselves, dear viewers. Paul and Mimi embark on their second year of marriage, for their story makes even Shakespeare's tales seem like childish scribbles. Stay tuned, because the spectacle is far from over. As our saga further unfurls, we stumble upon Paul and Mimi, joyously revelling in their 10th circuit around the sun as a married duo. Just imagine it, a day brimming with hearty laughter, blooming love, and a dash of absurdity that would make even Alice's adventures in Wonderland seem as mundane as a game of checkers. Their festivities? Oh, nothing less than a journey straight to the Earth's molten core, dining on truffles so decadently encrusted with crystals that even Willy Wonka's confections start to resemble stale breadcrumbs. And what do they drink, you ask? Why, champagne from goblets so exquisitely carved from precious gems that it makes Gatsby's lavish parties look as exciting as a quiet night in with a book. The entertainment? A vibrant troupe of prehistoric dinosaurs executing stunts and tricks that defy gravity and make Cirque du Soleil seem like a group of clumsy toddlers tumbling about. Their scales, they shimmer with such brilliance under the Earth's core light that it makes the Great Gatsby's lighthouse feel like a dinky flashlight. The anniversary gifts? Paul showers Mimi with a musical rainbow bouquet, each petal crooning her favourite tunes, making Orpheus and his lyre seem tone-deaf. Mimi reciprocates with a stellar gift, a map of the galaxy where each twinkling star symbolises an adventure yet to embark on, making Jules Verne's voyages seem as exciting as a suburban bus ride. As the day draws to a close, Paul, flaunting his pyromancer prowess, summons the moon itself, providing the perfect celestial canopy for their dance. This would make Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream feel like a winter's nightmare. Amidst the ludicrous and laughter, there are sweet whispers of calm, moments where they simply bask in each other's love, reminding us that this tale of theirs makes Romeo and Juliet look like a high school fling. Thus, dear viewers, their 10th anniversary culminates, a day drenched in humour and hyperbole, a day that puts every great love story ever told to shame. As Paul and Mimi gear up for their 11th year as happily wedded pair, keep your eyes peeled, for this tale is far from over, and it promises to make every other story look like a child's doodle compared to a Picasso masterpiece. In the blink of an eye, ye old decade pirouettes past, like an Elizabethan jester at Christmas. As we join Paul and Mimi on their 20th wedding anniversary, we are sucked once again into their peculiar universe of enchantment that makes Alice's Wonderland feel like a drab account of municipal planning. Try picturing this if you dare. A banquet on a floating island in the sky, making the Hogwarts feast seem like a pitiful school lunch. The menu? An array of cloud-shaped delicacies and rainbow-coloured beverages that sparkle with more radiance under the twilight than the most vivid of descriptions from Fitzgerald's Jazz Age. Their transportation, a phoenix so resplendent, its fiery plumage makes Tolkien's mythical beast look like common lizards. The entertainment? A shooting star ballet, choreographed Mimi, that makes the famed masquerade of the Phantom of the Opera seem like a clumsy county fair. The anniversary gifts. Paul gifts Mimi an enchanted hourglass, each grain of sand a cherished memory from their 20 years of wedded bliss, making Jay Gatsby's undying love for Daisy appear almost pitiable. Mimi, in return, presents Paul with a flame writing a tribute to his pyromancer powers and his passion for storytelling, making Hemingway's poignant tales seem like a mere child's play. As night descends, they dance on the phoenix's back, their laughter echoing into the starlit sky, creating symphonies that would make even Beethoven bow his head in defeat. Amidst this fascinating festival of the fantastic, there are moments of quiet love and tender intimacy that make Romeo and Juliet's tragic romance look like a teenage fling. And so, dear viewers, their 20th anniversary concludes, a day as outlandish and delightful as their love, making Edward and Bella's romance feel as plain as bread and butter. As Paul and Mimi set off into their third decade of matrimony, stay glued to your seats, for this saga trumps all the epics of Homer and Virgil combined, showing that their story is far from over. The curtain lifts, revealing the next outrageous chapter in the 30-year saga of Paul and Mimi. Forget your Romeo and Juliet, their love story is but a preschool jest compared to this. Imagine, if you can, a beach bathed in moonlight, the sand twinkling, making diamonds of the Great Gatsby, like nothing more than cheap cubic zirconia. Paul, our homegrown Prometheus, has masterminded a breathtaking tableau of fire sculptures, each scintillating flame a living memoir of their shared past, making remembrance of things past seem like forgettable doodle in the margins of their love. Without warning, a sea sprite, more mischievous than Puck of Midsummer Night's Dream, pops out from the ocean, lured by the fire's warmth and the infectious laughter echoing from our dynamic duo. In an act of whimsical tomfoolery, this sprite borrows Mimi's magical hourglass, triggering of events that will make the comedy humaine look like a dull dirge. Paul, our chivalrous knight, chases this sprite, his blazing powers causing pyrotechnic pandemonium that makes the fire and brimstone of Paradise Lost seem as tepid as warm milk. Mimi, the strategist who could give Sun Tzu's art of war a run for its devises a cunning plan involving a giant clam, a pearl necklace, and a laughably ticklish octopus, resulting in an underwater escapade that makes 20,000 leagues under the sea look like a paddle in the kiddie pool. As for the hourglass, it's retrieved, naturally, in a climax that involves a seaweed and a contrite sea sprite, leaving the Odyssey's homecoming looking like a stroll in the park. Back on their beach, the fire sculptures, now a love-affirming light show, Paul and Mimi celebrate their anniversary. Their love story being a masterclass in hilarity and warmth, reducing Pride and Prejudice's Elizabeth and Darcy to awkward adolescent lovebirds. Their 30th year together, dear viewers, stands as a monument to a love story that makes the Song of Solomon seem like a poorly written limerick. As they march toward their next decade, we're left guessing what zany exploits lie ahead. Stay tuned, unlike To Kill a Mockingbird, the story of Paul and Mimi is far from finished.